because nobody will love them. Not ever again. Nobody loves me. They wander the new maker plane. To which Paul, once again, very observant, says,
I'm not sure what to say about that.
There's a lot in that note that will not make sense, at least not for now. But there are some things that we can start to put together. For one, whoever wrote this note intended it for a specific person. And it seems that the note was written from the perspective of a specific person as well, as it uses words like you and I. Whoever the you is in this statement seems to be someone who's married, as it says, your wife says, care isn't growing eyebrows. Again, color coordination matters in this series. Again, we see care that is highlighted in yellow text, and then the wife's dialogue of isn't growing eyebrows is in a blue text. However, when the you quote appears that says, that's puzzling, the husband responding to the wife, it's in a green text. So again, we can establish that care is yellow, the you that this note was intended for is green, and that whoever you is, whoever the green character is, his wife is indicated by blue. Finally, we get the mention of a character named Tiara. Now, we've seen the color green before. In the GIF plane, when Paul comes to the picture of Tonith and Randis, Randis is highlighted in green. However, one is a green to white gradient and the other is a green to black gradient. So I don't think it's saying that the you, the green character, is Randis, but there may be some similarities that could be drawn later. Her name, as well as her bizarre quote, beyond rebirthing, are both indicated by this purple, pink, kind of magenta shade. Now, I know what you might be thinking by some of the details that are mentioned in that wall of text. Things like thinking about her in the bathtub, or excited about Claire, or a young person walks into the school. And I know a lot of these online horror stories go that direction, and this is also YouTube, so gotta be careful. And I promise the series doesn't go there, but it does go somewhere that might be as equally evil. If you needed further connection that Care and NLM are the same person, we see Care's yellow text say the phrase, nobody loves me. The text says a child enters the school and when they leave, they have their head in their hands crying, saying the phrase, nobody loves me. So again, since we can tie that quote and the color of the quote to Care, we can assume that it's Care that's being talked about when it says they come into the school but then they leave crying, never to be the same. So something happened to Care in that school that made her the way she is, that made her NLM. The other details from this note, like rebirthing and eyebrows, will come in later. But for now, let's talk about Paul's connection to this game. It could be easy to assume that since Paul is our narrator and the one playing the game, that the you or green character in the story is him. But again, Paul has no clue as to what's going on and is seemingly too young to have a wife. You would think that if Paul is the you who was excited about Care not growing eyebrows, he would have some idea as to what's going on instead of being left in the dark as he currently is. Paul confirms this when, after reading that note, he begins to think out loud that perhaps this game was intended for someone. Not just in the text referencing a you specifically, but in the note he found with the game, it was again entitled to a you. So it seems that this game was created with someone in mind. And all of the characters that we hear being referenced, like Care, and Mike, and Tiara, mean something to someone. Paul doesn't know who that is. But nevertheless, somehow, this game came into his possession. As Paul walks around and ponders this, he steps into an unfinished area of the game before Petscop 3 ends. Again, the puzzle pieces may not be fitting together yet, but we're receiving a lot of them even if we don't know it. For Petscop 4, Paul goes back up the stairs to the grassy plain. Paul makes note that this grassy area is considered as upstairs, and everywhere he walked underground is downstairs. Paul goes to the left of the staircase and sees a large camera that seems to be coming out of the ground. It seems that Paul's done some investigating off camera as he establishes that he's seen this thing before. Paul points out that this is directly above the room underground where the red shape that he can ask questions to is located. Therefore, the screen behind the shape that shows the windmill must be a periscope that looks up above ground, or in this grassy plain that Paul is now looking at. So therefore, the camera should be pointed to where the windmill is. But when Paul walks over there, instead, there's just a giant open space. You can see a platform where the windmill theoretically would be, but of course it's not there anymore. Just before the video ends, as Paul is walking along the back of the platform, if you look in the back right of the screen, you can quickly see something move. Now we'll talk about what this creature might be in a moment, but for now, it seems that Paul isn't alone. Petscop 5 opens with Paul going downstairs back to the red shape. In this episode, Paul will ask the red shape a series of questions. One of the questions he asks is, "Who are you?" and the shape replies that it is Tool. So now I can quit referring to this thing as the red shape and just call it Tool. Paul says that the majority of the questions he asked Tool came back with the answer of "I don't know" that we saw earlier. It's also worth pointing out that anytime Tool answers something, the text is always in like a kid's crayon drawing, as if it's a kid scrolling the messages.
Yes!
However, there were a few questions that Paul asked
Yes, bro.
that did get a different answer. One of these
Nice.
questions is, "Who is Tiara?" To which Tool replies,